was at West Ham last night, Simon. David Moyes asking very kindly for you. And why wouldn't he be? Because he'd just seen his side beat Manchester United.
Yeah, I saw the exuberance on the pitch after the game, yeah.
It was some atmosphere, Simon, I've got to say. I mean, the London Stadium, you would not hear one West Ham coming out at the end saying, don't fancy that place. They loved it. It was a great, great night.
Yeah, well, that needle's moved, isn't it? I mean, the team has given them more to cheer about, not in recent times in the league, but certainly in Europe, to be distracted from the arguments around what the bait and switch was around the Berlin moving to the London Stadium. I mean, it's a perfect... David was unhappy about the game being played on a Sunday night on the week before a European Cup semi-final, or a European semi-final. He won't be so unhappy now because they'll go into it with momentum. They'll go into it with the feel-good factor. The fact they've got the first leg at home was a slight disadvantage, but they'll go in now bouncing off the back of a great win against Man United and set themselves up for an opportunity to maybe turn this into quite a significant season, because if they can finish 40 plus points, you know, be 12th, 13th in the table, not what they wanted, but not as bad as it could have been at one point, and then go and win a European trophy, you know, the dial may change on David's potential challenges of another season with West Ham, because I thought he was under a slight bit of threat, both from himself wanting not to be part of some of the things that were going on in terms of some of the vitriol, and potential the fact that they themselves at the top might have gone, okay, David's run his race a little bit.
I think you're spot on with that. We're going to hear from David Moyes. I had a chat with him after the game last night. I was at the match. And we'll have a chat with Declan Rice as well. Declan was outstanding last night. Arsenal, Martin, won at Newcastle to move back to within a point of Manchester City. I mean, have Arsenal steadied the wobble, if you like, Martin? Has it come too late?
Has it come too late? I think what they've got to do is keep that pressure on Man City. And, you know, you look at it going through to the end of the season, and I looked again at the City fixtures. Jim, they've just won 12 of the last 13 games, Man City. So you're going to have to ask them to have a little wobble. If they draw, I think, a couple of games there, then suddenly it goes to the last weekend. But it looks like City are going to do it. But Arsenal, I think, now, there's been a big debate about winners. What does it take to be a winner? Are you born winner? Do you become a winner? Do you develop winners? I think when you face adversity and disappointment, as they did last season against Newcastle and against Spurs, I think they've used that as energy to come back and get great results there this season. I thought it was a good step from an Arsenal point of view yesterday in the long-term view or vision of the club to try to become real winners and win a trophy.
I wonder, Simon, if there's any coincidence that they've righted themselves once they moved to chaser as opposed to the chased.
Maybe. I mean, look, there's still many a slip twixt cup and lip in this race.
I like
because you've got Man City. If Man City go and get knocked out of the Champions League, what does that do to them? They've got that distraction, which may give Arsenal just a little sneak opportunity. They may find themselves in a situation. Now, I mean, obviously Leeds put themselves in a mix for about 7 seconds in the game by getting a goal, against the run of play and with the arguments around who should have taken a penalty to put the game out of sight. I still think Man City will win the league. And of course there is an argument. It is inexplicable to some extent to look at that run of form against Everton, Southampton, West Ham, less so Liverpool, but in those games to try and explain why Arsenal let it slip from their grip. It feels a tiny, and Martin will probably bristle at this, a tiny bit like the run-in last year where it was theirs to lose fourth spot and they subsequently did. This is slightly earlier because it wasn't at the last 4 or 5 games of the season where Spurs came on and Arsenal fell away. But I think they'll look at games like Everton, and of course the Dyche bounce, but they still shouldn't have lost that game. They didn't turn up in that game. And the Southampton and West Ham games, and that's where they handed it. So to go to your question, I don't know, Martin and I, we found an accord in this scenario of Rio Ferdinand being facetious and clever with him about what winners look like. We all know he knows what winning looks like because he's played an Arsenal side that's won. I think winning is a mentality. Of course you've got to have an outcome at the end. I think Arsenal have got a winning mentality, more of a win mentality than they ever had. So maybe he and I misspoke and gave someone an opportunity to be slightly facetious about what an ultimate winner looks like. But I'm not sure that the narrative of bottlers or chokers on losing it from the front is fair to levy. They just haven't perhaps got enough experience.
To give personal experience of that. So on the way to being a winner and winning trophies, I knew I was a winner. Personally, I knew I was a winner. But to shut everybody else up and to how you're perceived by other people, you need to win trophies. But it has to start from within. You have to believe you're winners. You have to create a culture of winners. And I think Arteta's done a really good job at doing that, Jim. And it's about the people that are in the building. He's got the right people. He's got the right players. And now they're showing their personalities.
Well,
Jorginho yesterday was fantastic because he's been a winner, hasn't he?
Yeah, of course.
In the Premier League.
You mentioned Arteta there. He felt his side used the emotions from last year's defeat at Newcastle in just the right way.
It was a special day. It was a different game to any other game because the emotions that were involved, and we had to play with that emotion, and we have to go back to the experience that we have here last year and really feel again where we were. And when the sports gives you another opportunity, you have to make sure that you approach it in a different way. And I saw a team today with a lot of fight and a lot of desire to win. It doesn't matter what, and it doesn't matter what type of game they have to play out there, and they stay about it, and we deserve to win the game.
You see, I mean, Simon, almost 12 months ago, Arsenal collapsed at Newcastle 2-0, and they saw their top four hopes go up in smoke. I mean, what a difference a year makes, right?
Of course, absolutely. Undeniably, because Arsenal are second in the league, so it didn't make a difference just because they rocked up to Newcastle and beat them there. They're second in the league. That difference has already been established. What you again, to answer the question, is it again about bouncing out of the top of the league and being relaxed and more composed to go and get... No. That Newcastle side, irrespective of whether Arsenal were top of the league, leading the way, or second in the league, were the side that no one wants to play at St James's Park. Whoever you are, wherever you were in that particular title race, or wherever you were in the league, to go to Newcastle and ostensibly, despite the first 10 minutes, shut that game down and be the better side on the pitch and play against a cacophony of noise that Newcastle fans bring, and pressure and atmosphere and momentum, tells you that Arsenal are a very good side. A very good side.
Jim, we like it or not, where the fixtures fall are very important in your running. Now, I just look at this with Man City, and they've got two really what I consider difficult away games, but it might not even matter. The Premier League might be won by then. So next season, maybe those should be filtered, because Brighton away and Brentford away are their last two games. And if they were dotted, maybe 5-6 weeks ago, you might have had a different look at the Premier League.
Yeah.
Because the record that they've got now, 12 wins from 13, City are just moving through the gears.
Sure. Before we hit the break, actually, Martin, I want to throw this at you, but Newcastle, did they get a taste of their own medicine when it came to game management? Eddie said afterwards, it was frustrating because we wanted the ball in play. It was very stop-start, which suits the away team.
Well, that could have been the quotes from Arteta in their first meeting in the Premier League earlier this season, when Newcastle came and actually showed the way in that field.
Yeah.
And brand new. It's a brand new team. I thought their game management, Newcastle have been brilliant at that. I actually did an article on it, the number of minutes they had the ball in play. And Arsenal did. And it was interesting, actually, because without naming names, a lot of those Newcastle players were getting particularly angry because it sometimes takes one to know one. So if you're prepared, if you actually waste time, you know what someone else is doing. And I thought Xhaka... Actually, yes, I thought he was brilliant in everything he did in the game management, Jim. And you can't win every game playing beautiful football. And Jorginho said the players bought into what they needed to do, and they played Newcastle at their own game.
Jim White.